We are thrilled to welcome all of you here. The equality between the sexes has been established in the legal code of our and many other countries long time ago, although. And we take for granted that women participate in the economic life, in the public life, and in the political life on an equal basis with men. That is the truth, de jure, but it's not the truth de facto. Not according to data, at least. 20 out of 315 heads of states and heads of government are women. Only 23.4% of parliamentary seats all over the world are taken by women. And when it comes to global senior management positions, the number is 25%. When it comes to CEOs, the number drops to 12%. The disparity looms so large that fewer women run big companies than men named John. And that's the truth. What is the situation in Bulgaria, you may ask? According to 2017 Eurostat statistics, 17.1% of senior management positions are held by women. That is less than a fifth.
Statistics such as these point to an important truth. And that truth is that in the most important decisions that govern our lives, women remain vastly outnumbered. This leads not only to women not having an equal say in the significant decisions that govern our lives, but it also means that businesses don't get to effectively utilize and benefit the talent of half of the human population. When it comes to closing the leadership gap, women seem to have stalled. We wanted to do something about this, and that's how the Power of She was born. Today you're going to hear from 4 extraordinary women who are living embodiments of power, leadership, and achievement. And I want to thank each and every one of them for being here today and honoring us with their presence. Also, we would like to thank Ms. Gergana Pasi, who is our incredible mentor, and without whom we couldn't have assembled such a remarkable panel, so thank you. We're also very grateful to our ACS advisors, Ms. Semkova, the Peer Office, and the Student Activities Fund. And now, I would like to give the words to Mr. Mikhail Yusuf, our amazing moderator today. And we're very thankful for him because to achieve gender equality, we need the vigorous support of such men. So thank you, and let's begin.
Прекрасни думи за откриване на нашата дискусия, The Power of She. Аз се извинявам предварително, че ще ви говоря на български. И то не за друго, защото се чувствам като на изпит по английски тук пред вас. Моят английски е на филмово ниво. Ако се сещате за какво става въпрос, само преди малко идвам от ефира на една телевизия, като говорих за новите филмови заглавия. А сега се радвам да се срещна първо с нашите прекрасни дами, нашите прекрасни гости и разбира се толкова много от вас на такава дискусия, която аз лично смятам за изключително важна. Първото, което ще помоля нашите гости, разбира се, да кажат няколко думи за себе си и разбира се защо е важна според тях тази тема и как те виждат представянето и пред вас, защото според мен това е предизвикателство пред толкова млада публика да се говори именно темата за равенството, нещо казано между половете. Но първо да благодаря аз на нейно превъзходителство, посланника на Великобритания, госпожа Хопкинс, че е с нас. И ще я помоля да каже няколко думи, мис Хопкинс.
I got most of that, so thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I'm going to speak in English. I hope that's okay. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm Emma Hopkins. I'm the British Ambassador here. I've been here for 3 years, and I'm delighted to be here today. I'm absolutely thrilled to see both men and women here today, actually, because I do go to a lot of events about gender equality, and I do speak to rooms full of women who are actually converted on the idea of gender equality. So it's good to talk to the entire young generation. I think I'm supposed to talk about what the power of she means to me. And when I saw the title of this event, I think to me, this type of event and this type of initiative by young women is all about, for me, the concept of sisterhood. And for me, what that means is that in order to achieve gender equality, we are more powerful together than we are singly, which I think is a very evident fact. But it also, peculiarly from my own history, I know that it's never right to get ahead as a woman by standing or trampling on other women. So the concept of sisterhood is about supporting others, but also about, in your journey to the top, making sure that you do so in a way that's consistent with your values, but also that the ladder that you climb, you make less steep for the people who come behind you than it was when you climbed it originally. So for me, the concept of the power of she is about doing events like this, supporting the younger generation, showing the right type of leadership in my organisation or my embassy, and giving the drive to gender equality in all that you do. And for me, that's very much what this event, this organisation, this concept means. So thank you very much for the invitation. I'm delighted to be here. I'm excited to talk to you and get your thoughts on some of these issues.
Thank you. Ms. Diana.
Thank you. My name is Jung Maduro, and I'm board member of DSK Bank, which I guess you know is one of the biggest Bulgarian banks. I'm working in banking for 25 years already this year, and why I have taken the possibility to come today, I first want to thank Gary and these two young ladies, Mihaela and Siana. I have met one of them, Mihaela, before this meeting, and after that I even more get inspired to come. Why? As Mrs. Hopkins just said, why it's so important to have more women and to speak with young people about that? Because what is happening during your education now, you're learning a lot of things about the nature and mathematics and everything, but you don't learn, at least when I was a student, so much about how to communicate with people. Not only men or women, but how to communicate with people. So if you, and I'm so much inspired that these two young ladies have decided to take the challenge to understand the roots of the communication between a man and woman, not only in a position of going up as a professional, but also in your family life. So it is as much important to become in a, to feel comfortable and balanced in your family, and then to develop yourself socially or professionally or whatever. Coming back to she, I'm happy to be part of several, but at least in one women organization, Ladies Forum, where I work in a mentor program, locally and internationally these days. And I'm so happy to learn myself from this mentorship, how young people can change these percentages that you mentioned, because it changed, these percentages are changed because of us.
Yes.
Sitting here in this room, I was also very pleasantly surprised that there will be boys and men in the room. I'm so happy that it's over full here, and the president is also here. So thank you for the opportunity to learn from you. But if I have to say one sentence why I'm here today, it's because I would like to tell you what I have learned and to learn from you. Thank you for the opportunity.
I would also speak in English. My voice is a little bit low. So, would you apologize me? So, my name is Romeo Lalova. I'm managing director of SAP. It's a software company for the region of Southeast Europe, which is a cluster of 10 countries, including managing director for SAP Bulgaria. And coincidentally, luckily, today, immediately after I leave here, I go to another event, which is about She Leads, which is exactly the same format with another group of people. And you know what? You are very lucky that you are living in a time when there is awareness of the problem about she. This is extremely important problem, or we have to become aware, because we could not change things that we are not aware of. The moment we can change something is the moment we become aware of it. And I can tell you that I personally was not aware of the problem, because maybe when I was at your age, I never had a chance to be at such events. They were never organized. I never had a chance to see leaders inspiring me and saying that I'm not alone and there is a way for a woman to succeed in her career. So you are extremely lucky. You are living in times which are different, believe me, and they're much better than the times that maybe we grew up, the ladies on this table. One thing that I want you to take with you now, and of course we'll continue the discussion eventually, is that be grateful that you have this right nationality of being a Bulgarian, because here in this society you have seen very often a very nice role models of your working mothers who are proud members of the society, who made everything possible that you rise as a good individuals, and at the same time they have been already having a life that is requiring to work. This is a great really experience for you. You have to be grateful to having the right experience, the right education, and to take this as an opportunity to really make a change. Because I believe that what we have in Bulgaria and overall in the region of Central and Eastern Europe, dear, I cannot call you men and women, for me you are kids, but believe me, this is really outstanding experience that we have. In Central and Eastern Europe we have so much women leaders, which unfortunately the Western economies does not have. And this is an enormous benefit, this is enormous value for what is in front of us, because women lead in a different way. They are different leaders, but these are the leaders which are needed for what is in front of us, because in front of us are very interesting times which you are going to be part of, participating actively. So I don't want to stall out of the time of the rest of the colleagues, but be grateful that you are living in a very special times, in a very special country, and studying at a very special institution.
Всички ние сме заедно в час и с следващата наша панелистка.
Hi everyone. It's extremely moving for me to be here today because I am a product of this institution. I'm an alumnus of the American College of Sofia, an alumna. I graduated from this school back in 2004 and then had an amazing educational experience at Harvard until 2008. And then for 2 years I was working in Western Europe, and then I decided to return to Bulgaria. I'm sharing this brief overview just so you get a sense of my profile, because it's not a very typical or traditional profile yet for our country. I hope more and more it will be. And since I returned, I've been working, or I established and have been managing an organization called Teach for Bulgaria, or Zajedno v Čas in Bulgarian, which aims to increase the opportunities for every child in our country to get an access to quality education. So why am I here today? First, because I feel this is such a special place with incredible people in this room and in the entire school, I currently have the privilege to serve as a board member to the ACS board, and any opportunity to be back on ground and to be engaging with students and faculty members and partners is an incredible gift and opportunity for me. The second reason why I'm here is that I do agree with Rumiana. I realized as I was living abroad what an incredible privilege I had that I lived in the Bulgarian society, in the family that I had for 18 years before leaving this country for a little bit. Especially working in Western Europe, I realized that people do live with certain frameworks and stereotypes and ideas in their minds about what women are like, what men are like, what each of them should be doing, how they should be interacting. But then, what I realized that this matters. And what matters even more is what I think about who I am, about how I should be interacting with others, about how my voice should be raising above or equally with others, and about what I want to make of myself and my destiny and of those around me. So I'm here today because I'm really passionate about talking about the role of personal example, about the importance of listening to your own voice, and about the role every one of us can have to making slight incremental changes to the way others think about us. It was fascinating when we had a short conversation with Mihaela last week at my office, when she was asking me, okay, but how can we solve this problem? Quick, now, fast. And I was like, oh, wow, you're showing me I've gotten old. You know, in less than 10 years since graduating from college, I realized that the fast changes I was also extremely passionate about when I graduated from this school are not happening that fast. But they are happening, and I would love to just share some personal experiences about how we can make this change step at a time, as Emma mentioned, together, in sisterhood or brotherhood, because to me, it's not about women and men, it's about every individual and the potential of every individual to be who they truly are and to follow their true passion, which is why I'm at the work with Teach for Bulgaria, what moves me every day, and what I'd love to share as a message and experience with you today. So, thank you.
Уважаеми приятели, в този ред на мисли аз няма да говоря много. Това е шега, разбира се. Силно се надявам вашите въпроси да са насочени към нашите гости. Не се притеснявайте въобще. Но ще започна, разбира се, с няколко въвеждащи към нашите гости. Мис Hopkins, what differences have you noticed in the perception and treatment of women in Bulgaria and in the UK?
Well, I mean, since I've been here, I've actually been impressed by the women that I've met. I mean, it probably has been the highlight of my stay in Bulgaria, the very strong women I've made friends with, met in business, in the NGO sector, in the media. So I think the thing about Bulgaria and most post-socialist countries is you actually have a very good rights framework. You've grown up, as we've heard, with the example of your mothers working, something that I didn't have. When I was growing up in England in the 70s and 80s, that wasn't something that mothers did. But here you have. So you have this framework where men and women work, men and women are both part of the family, and that is a very good example. But what I suppose one of the things I have noticed is that men and women both work, but women in Bulgaria are still expected to do most of the work at home. So what does that mean? I mean, it's still a problem also for us in the UK. It's a problem, I think, in many countries, apart from perhaps the Nordic countries who are streets ahead. But what does this mean? It means that on the face of it, we have equality in our professional life. But privately, it means that in addition to all of your professional duties, you still have to carry the lion's share of running a home, caring for children. And that means, in fact, it does have an impact on your ability and opportunity to progress in the professional sphere. And I think that is something that is still very evident here, as it is evident in other countries. So that's been, I think, something that I've noticed. The other thing I've noticed, which is a very hot topic in the UK at the moment, is just the everyday sexism that you encounter. So in the UK, we have something called the Everyday Sexism Project. It was set up by a woman called Laura Bates. And she was fed up with walking past a building site and people catcalling at her every day. She was fed up with being groped on the tube on her way to work. She was fed up with people commenting on her appearance in a meeting. So she set up a website and she asked people, men, women, anyone around the world, to add in their experiences to this website. And that was 5 years ago. This was an opportunity to share things which become so commonplace that they feel normal. And as a result of that, many things happened. She was the subject of online rape threats, a huge amount of gendered criticism because she dared to do this thing. But actually, the coming together of women made some significant changes. For example, on the London Underground, the British Transport Police, in response to all of these women complaining about being harassed on the tube, started to install CCTV cameras. They started to have more visible police presence. So the power of almost crowdsourcing your everyday sexism through this medium was a very important and different way of challenging this normalised behaviour. And some of that normalised behaviour I see here. So, I mean, in terms of the question, I see very many similarities, unfortunately, very many positive aspects, but this type of everyday sexism is still prevalent in most of our societies, and something I'm subject to on an almost weekly basis. I can't go to a meeting without someone commenting on my appearance or on my age, both of which I think is totally inappropriate in a professional meeting. So these are types of things, whatever role you have, you are subject to this normalised behaviour, and I think that's something that I've seen not only here, but in the UK, but in many places, and I think we have to start calling out that behaviour. It's not normal, it's not acceptable, and the more people who do it, the more that we can change the standards both here and at home.
Позволявам си да извинявам се на малки Руми. Просто се познаваме с Евгения. Надявам се да ми гостува скоро в радиото.
Може на Диана също.
Добре. Silicon Valley, the mecca of technology, is notoriously known as being a toxic male environment. You heard that? In Bulgaria, there is a substantive women representation in the IT sector. What did we do right here?
Yes, it goes back a lot to what I was saying. I was surprised, by the way, 2 months ago, a Financial Times journalist reached out to me, and she wanted to make an article on Bulgaria, and she said, what strikes me the most about this country is that it's actually 33% of the working people in IT sector are women. This is far above the statistics of any country, not only in Europe, but anywhere in the world. And she said, would you like to take an interview with me and explain based on your experience, because obviously you are in this industry and you have a career, so what do you see? I said, dear Miss, I forgot her name, but whatever. You know what? This is not just a wrong. This is just not a statistic, and don't doubt it if it's wrong or right. But I can tell you that in the SAP software lab in Sofia, out of 800 software developers, more than 1/3 are women. And this is a fact. I don't know the name of each one of them, but I can give you an actual statistic. So this is true. Don't question it. She was really even putting under question if this exists and why it exists. And I'll tell you what I already told her, that the reason is that we had the role models. We not only had working mothers, we had working mothers who were engineers, accountants, CFOs. They were running companies. I mean, let's admit it, we had mothers who were doctors. They were not just, just working for the sake of working. And on top of that, we had teachers. My best teachers in math who taught me that I'm a mathematician were women. They were not men, you know. But on top of that, we had also all these incredible male peers who, when they went in the working environment, they treated and accepted us, just like, you know, the girl who was beating them on all the math contest that was going, or just like somebody who deserves the respect. So in many ways we are privileged, and that's why I said we have to be grateful for our experience. The things become much tougher when we progress in the career, and this is why maybe in the American college here you have 50-50 percentage of acceptance of talented girls and boys. So you are 50-50 now, and still, even in the IT sector, you're not 50-50, you're 30%, the women are there. When you get to the top, and when you get to the situation where you have to take a decision in your career, we are not a lot. And the reason is, exactly as very well explained by Her Excellency, the reason is because we have to think about much more things that we have to do at home, maybe. And in order to continue in our career and advance in our career, we need to find partners that trust us and support us. We need to have trust in ourselves that we can do it when nobody else is believing. We need to have the trust, and this trust is extremely important, that we are not going to be perfect in the working environment, that we are going to leave work at 5 o'clock because we have 3 kids, like me in my case. So we have to have trust that we might not be perfect, but the leaders that are successful today and tomorrow are not the perfect one, are the authentic ones who have trust in their personality as a human being, not the trust whether they are perfect human being. So to wrap it up, and not to eat the time of everybody, go on with the trust that you should not be perfect. Go on with the trust that you should find somebody in your life that trusts you, and around you, you should have a network of people to trust you. If they don't trust you, they should not be with you if you want to go ahead with your dreams as a girl, as a woman.
You have held various positions in banking.
Listen,
Chief Accountant, Chief Financial Officer, Corporate Banking Manager, Executive Director, Retail Banking Director. Would you tell us about your openness to new projects and appointments? What stimulated you to be so versatile? How to promote such attitude among women?
Well, I think that in this respect, women, we are in a better situation, and at least I can tell in my experience. By origin, by nature, women are born to have more burden on yourself because of the children. So we're giving birth, and we have to take care of the children, the family, whatever happens to the main hunter who wanted to take something for food. So if something happens extraordinary, we have very quickly to change and to be flexible. So that's why I think women, we are more open to changes. And at the same time, we have to change more often because of maternity and because of some other cases. I'll just give one example because it was mentioned about the Nordic countries by Her Excellency. A couple of years ago, we invited by our Ladies Forum the Minister for Social Affairs of Norway, who was the first lady that approved in a country that there are quotas in the public boards of the company. So Norway was the first country, and this lady was the one that started fighting for that. When she came here, she said, "Don't think that I'm somebody who doesn't have a husband or family, so I'm not a feminist, sorry. I have 4 children, and I have worked since all my life, but I do believe that there should be women's rights." This lady has succeeded not only to do it in Norway, and this is the personal example that I also truly believe in that, but also in the European Union. You know that there is a couple of years ago, it was accepted by the European Union and many countries after that. But what she said is the following. When I speak with you, because we had 2 days meetings with her, I see one very big difference. Whenever I needed to give birth to the children, I stayed at home, but then my husband took the paternity leave. At that time, in Bulgaria, it was, I think, maybe 6 years ago. It is also possible in Bulgaria at the moment. I don't know whether you know or not, but any man or grandmother or grandfather can take paternity leave, but it's not done. Why? On the contrary of the Nordic countries. Why? Because it's not accepted by the population and by the people and by your families or grandmothers and grandfathers that the husband will stay at home because it's not accepted. So you see this, I'm repeating the word accepted. So we should change our mentality, every one of us, and to accept that in a family, in a partnership, whatever it is, because now there are different types of partnerships also accepted, everybody should take the responsibility not only to have rights, but the responsibility that this unit requires from him or her at that moment. This is the change of the mind. Then it's easy. In the banking system in Bulgaria, whenever I go abroad, or even in the banks that I have worked for, there are many CEOs, the most CEOs, ladies, in this part of the world, and I think in many other parts of the world, is Bulgaria. So we have to be proud. Like in IT industry, in banking, it's like that also. So we have more than 17% CEOs in banking. It's close to 1/3. It's changing. And it's because these ladies have adapted themselves better to whatever needed at the moment than men. Simple as that, at least in my opinion. So be ready to change. And change before somebody else pushes you to change. That's the important message, I think.
In your opinion, how to question and address the existing prejudices about the natural inclination of girls? That's cool.
Yeah. I'll share a story, a personal story. Okay, I'm not going to share a college story that just came to my mind, but beware. When you go to college, there's also a lot of prejudice, regardless of which country you go to. Very much related to what you were just sharing, Ambassador, about just how people, allow themselves to do certain things with women. Maybe they allow themselves to do other things with men, by the way. So to me, there's prejudice against women and men alike in different shapes and forms. But something I experienced with my first job as a management consultant, based in Belgium with McKinsey & Company, which is supposed to be a very forward-thinking, and it is in many ways, company. After every project, we would have a formal review by the manager of the project. And they would give us feedback on all types of competencies and skills we demonstrated, what we did well, what we could do better. And I think I was probably about 6 or 9 months into my job, where I received really strange feedback from my manager. Basically, it said, "You are too assertive." And I really found this strange, because to me, to share my opinions in an argumentative way, to speak up my mind when I feel strongly about it, was not a bad thing. It was a virtue. That was my role model at my home. Like my mom would always speak her mind, even to the extent of not letting my dad say something, which I'm not sure is always the best role model to have as well. But hey, when I have a thought and an argument, I'll just share it out. And I think the debate club experience at ACS also helped me do that. So I was really confused, and I was like, okay, so should I just shut up more? Should I work more on my listening skills? Like, what should I do? Thankfully, I had a mentor within the firm who I went to, and I just shared with him this quandary, what's happening. And he said, well, you know what? If you were a man, you wouldn't have received this feedback. And this was absolutely shocking to me. I was entering a new world. where supposedly if I'm a man and if I'm active in discussions, that's okay. But if I'm a woman and I'm active in discussions, that's not necessarily okay. And then I realized that this is some inherent and maybe unconscious bias within some of my colleagues, not all, because that mentor, he was a man. He realized it. He encouraged me to continue speaking of my mind, but also just be aware that different people interpret behaviors in different ways. And later on I realized this is not only something that men do to women, it's something that women do to women, it's something that women do to men. And an additional story related to that, I was privileged to attend a global meeting of women 2 years in a row, and last year when I went, we listened in a huge room of thousands of women to the Minister of Army, or the Minister of Defense of France. She's a woman, a very impressive woman, because she's basically heading the entire army force of a major European state. And she said, when someone asked her, well, tell us, what can we do about this inequality? Because in France, women do suffer from more significant inequality, especially in the work field, than we can face here in Bulgaria. I don't know how it compares to the UK. And she said, well, you know, I always tell other women, we are the people who give birth to men and who raise men. The role models that we present to them as what the woman is doing and what a man is supposed to be doing is how they grow up and what they are going to repeat over their lifetime. Which relates back to my thought that we are the role models that can say, you know, it's okay for me to be at work and at home and raising the kids and doing all the work at work and then doing all the work at home, or no, it's not okay. And it's up to us to say to a man, hey, if you want to be in my life, if you want to be my husband, if you want us to have kids together, there are certain things that I care about and that you should also care about. Otherwise, we're just not made to be together. And in the workplace, to people who give me the feedback about being assertive, to have a conversation with them about, okay, is it truly this feedback that you want to give me, or is it something different? And where is this feedback coming from? Is it related to your perceptions about me being a young woman and speaking out her mind when you don't expect her to, or is it about me not stating the right opinions? But again, I think we can have mentors and quotas and external sort of support structures and mechanisms to establish our roles and value as women, as men. But it's also very much up to us to recognize when the treatment or the expectations we receive is A, fair, B, something that we want to live up to and deal with. Because I'm absolutely convinced there are some women who are absolutely fine staying at home and taking care of the kids, and there are some women who are absolutely not fine. There are some women who just want to work. I mean, I have many friends in the States who are only thinking about career and not about kids necessarily for various reasons. And there's also people who never want to have kids. So again, it's very individual to me. We can, of course, there are some general trends, but I wonder if every one of us ask themselves really, who do I want to be? What are the frameworks, the stereotypes that I've learned, the role models that have shown me what I can be because of my gender, and what dictates to others who I want to be, and then do I want to stick with those? And if I don't want to stick with those, what do I want to do? And whose trust do I want to gain? And how do I surround myself with people who share my beliefs?
Вие сте, аз наистина не искам да прекаляваме, въпреки че са прекрасни мислите и въобще опита, които споделят с нас нашите гости. Така че питайте, може да няма въпроси в вас.
Да?
Are the expectations toward women really higher than the expectations toward men?
Not really. They're not higher, but very often the people who have expectations and are in the managerial positions will be men, accepted. And they, especially if they are not Bulgarians or born somewhere in Eastern Europe, they will look at you through some kind of a subjective lens, and will, even when you say, I'm ready for this job, I want it, and he's going to say, are you sure? You have 3 kids. I mean, mean, do you think you have an energy to do this? And the fact that somebody is already asking you, they don't have higher expectations. They just have a subjective understanding that it's not okay, you know? And the moment when this happens, you have to be really self-aware of this issue. And that's why I said you are lucky, because you are aware now at the age of 19. You know what? Until 3 years ago, I was saying that this thing does not exist at an event, and everybody was laughing at me. Can you imagine? And one of the many reasons why I keep on going and meeting as many as possible of you, boys and girls. There is an issue, a big issue. You're not feeling it here. All of you, though, are ambitious enough to leave this country. Believe me, when you leave this country, there is going to be a lot of subjective judgment just because you are a girl, for the girls. And boys, you get fine, okay? But your girlfriends will be questioned, can she has a career and have a family? So expectations are not different. Be aware of the fact, and when questioned, have trust. Have trust in yourself and have trustful network around you to support you.
And if I can add something, what Her Excellency said, people will judge you from the outer experience. Okay, that when you go for an interview, definitely they will look at you. It's a girl or a woman, young lady. You shouldn't take care of that. Just be yourself. Whatever is your appearance, whatever is your age, doesn't matter how many children you have. Or the other question is, are you going to take maternity leave for 2 years? So what I'm going to do now, you think it. Even when we make interviews, when I make interviews, I take this into consideration. Okay, the lady goes out for some maternity leave, once, twice. It's not good sometimes for the organization, or I should take it into consideration. So reality is reality. You're a woman. You just go and you say it openly. I have this and this and this, but I can deliver this and this and this. And if I need it to take care of my child, I can be flexible, I can work at home, whatever, from home. So just say it. Be transparent, then everybody will accept it.
I think I sort of slightly disagree with Diana on that. I mean, I think expectations are about your own expectations of yourself. And I think one of the things that I've definitely seen from young women is young women in my embassy will look in a mirror and say, oh my God, my bum's big. A man will look in the mirror and say, I look great today. And when you're applying for a job, you look at the application and young men come to me and say, oh, I can do 50% of this job description, I'm going to go for it. And a girl will come to me and say, oh, I can only do 90%, I don't think I should apply. So it's a difference in confidence, and I see it with my own two girls. It's about belief, because even when I arrived here in Bulgaria, I was full of a little bit of self-doubt. It was my first ambassador job. Oh my God, I'm going to slip up and so on. And I saw my other counterparts across Europe, male ambassadors for the first time, just going for it, you know, and giving their opinion out there. I was invited to go to lectures, and I said, well, I think I should learn a bit about the country before I start lecturing on the differences between Bulgaria and the UK. So it's about confidence and belief, and I think the thing is, you don't have to do it their way, you can do it your way. Mm-hmm. So you should go for it, but don't conform to the model that they're presenting. And if anyone asks you whether you want kids or you've got kids, you say that's totally irrelevant to the situation, you know. They wouldn't ask a man that question, and you shouldn't ask me that question. So it shouldn't be asked. It's illegal in the UK to ask that question. So you've just got to believe in yourself. And if I can do anything with my two girls, or any boy, I've got my nephew who's a boy, If I can do anything, it's just to give them the confidence to be themselves. You don't have to conform to a model of what a leader looks like. You can be yourself. And so I think the question about expectations is really about expectations for yourself. And you should have high expectations for yourself. And no one should place a limit on them apart from the limits you place on your own self. So I would encourage you to apply for that job you can only do 90% of. And every time you look in the mirror, you should think, I look good.
It's like this, exactly as you said. Women in working environment doesn't know how good they are, and they always think that they can cover part of the job. And it's like there is something which is not helping you to see yourself. Every single woman. So it is like this. Thank you for sharing.
Само да ви успокоя, журналист да ви кажа, няма глупави въпроси.
Okay, so we're talking about equality and on our workplace, but for me, the equality between females and males should start from our everyday life. But then I come to encounter some, so to say, radical feminists who take the level of equality to very new different magnitudes. And I believe that simple politeness, just like holding the door, is not something that should be removed from our everyday lives. I mean, this is also showing respect for the female. And I wanted to know, how do you feel about those simple gestures? Because I think this has been in our society for many years. Chivalry, as they say, is dead, but I don't think it should be necessarily dead. And we shouldn't kill it. So what do you think about those little things that also, I believe they also show respect for women?
It's fascinating that when I returned to Bulgaria and launched Teach for Bulgaria, I would meet so many, for work-related reasons, sorry, this might sound a little funny, so many older men who would really insist that they pay for my coffee, that they open the door, they would make a compliment. You know, I was really not used to that, having lived for 4 years in the United States and then for 2 years in Western Europe. And at the beginning I was like, well, no, you shouldn't be paying for my coffee. Like, no, this is not okay. And then at some point I was like, listen, this is really not hurting me that much, so may I just be aware of this cultural specificity of our context and realize that these men actually really appreciate demonstrating this gesture. So to me, this was not necessarily harmful, but I always am aware, you know, where is the line between them just being nice and them being overly intrusive, for example. And I think it's very hard sometimes to judge, which is why maybe interventions like what Ambassador Hopkins has shared about, you know, just implementing official rules about certain things can be very helpful for the majority, you know, like just for all of us. Unfortunately, I'm a huge idealist in the belief that it really takes the power of our collective and individual minds to build our own capacity and self-confidence that both of you were talking about, and really to know that I'm confident enough to allow the person across from me demonstrate their gesture of politeness and kindness, and accept it or not accept it in a way that is not going to hurt them, but is also going to help me maintain my own dignity, you know, and self-confidence. And I assume for every person it's a different, you know, the level of confidence and the line lies somewhere differently. So again, if you can build in yourself that internal thermometer, if you wish, about what am I comfortable with, what helps me build my confidence and know where my value lies, and what I totally am not comfortable with. And this comment about women being self-critical, well, I must tell you that I thought women are more self-critical than men. And now that I work in the organization that I work with, where somehow, I don't know if any of you has done this StrengthsFinder survey of Gallup International, where many companies, I guess, do it, where you can literally run a test on your inherent strengths as a leader, as a person. somehow, and Kati, my colleague here, who's also an ACS alumna, can confirm, I think over 80% of our staff members have this one strength shared among all of them, among 36 strengths. We all have one that we share. It's called learner. Someone who's continuously learning and always questioning and always trying to be better. And we have men and women, okay? We have more women than men on the team, but men also share this strength. And I see how questioning they are of their own capabilities and how uncomfortable sometimes they are to say, I'm right and I can handle this right. So again, they have their own level of discomfort with something that we think is typically a female characteristic, but I can also see it in many men. Maybe because of the external environment, men have been taught that it's okay sometimes to not demonstrate it, whereas women have not been taught this way. But again, you have incredible capacity within yourselves and incredible role models within your school, within your families, to recognize that a lot of people try to impose their external understandings of what is right or wrong on you, and it's our choice. And if someone doesn't want you to open the door, well, let her be. And if someone enjoys getting the door open for her, you know, maybe that makes you feel better about you being a nice man to a woman. But just, you know, just appreciate these differences and find merit in each of them.
I love somebody to open the door for me. It's not happening often. The whole discussion here is not to forget the good things and the good traits we have and being a good human being. The whole discussion is not feministic. The whole discussion is to be aware of the subjective behavior that some have and some don't have. It does not mean to change the good traits and the good behaviors we have. So I believe that it's a process, exactly. I mean, it's a process and where the boundaries are different. And by the way, the more confident a woman is, the more fine she is, her bill to be paid, her door to be open, because this is exactly how you treat yourself, and when you receive this is greatly. So we have to be nice as personalities, as human beings, and be aware of our differences. That's it.
And if I can say something, now I'm reading a book about emotional intelligence. I highly recommend to everybody if you didn't do it. So in this it says, it's not so much intelligence that you're having or you're good in math or anything else. If you don't have an emotional intelligence, which you're usually getting up to your age, after that it's very difficult because it's too late. So sometimes just an example came to my mind. You're not in a good, no matter man or woman, you don't feel well, and then somebody comes and says to you, oh hi, you look so great today, or you have delivered so well now, whatever. And you just say, me? Who? So if you have against you in a relationship a person who is emotionally intelligent, that's the important part. He or she can accept anything. Of course, opening of the door, I was first shocked that there is such a question, at all. Because as a woman, I would like to get that. Then when we started speaking about paying of the bills, another things came into my mind. Somewhere in many families, or I have very close friends who are, she's Bulgarian, he's a foreigner, they always share the bill. They are married for many years and have children and everything, but they just have a common account. And in this common account, two of them are paying half the bills. And it's acceptable because both of them accept it. It's not about opening of the doors here. It's much more important. How do you accept the other human being next to you? So it's rather complex, but I do believe that if you openly say again, and you have the self-confidence to say it openly to the other person, it will work. Any extreme, of course, is not good.
Yes, it was about self-judgment. I was wondering, have you ever actually felt judged or felt scared or even ashamed of sharing your ambitions about achieving something in work, or about the fact that you're that you are working every day and you're so successful, instead of staying at home with your children and paying attention to them instead of paying attention to your work?
Every day, every minute. I mean, life is just guilt, one long guilt for working mums. I mean, you're at work, you're not with the kids. When you're at home, you're not fully with them because you're thinking about work. But, I mean, that's life. You can't be guilty all of the time. You feel as a working mother, you're not doing everything well. You know, you're not being a good mum because you're having to work, and at work you're not concentrating. But when my kids say, why aren't you coming home tonight? And I say, well, I'm working so that you have something to eat tomorrow. And that normally shuts them up. Because they like to eat, they like to buy clothes, and they like to go on holiday. So, and I don't need to be with them all the time for them to know that I love them. And I think the best role model you can be for kids is to be working and consistent with your values. So to be showing them that you can work, you can be a mum, you can have a family, you can have friendships, you can have hobbies, you can try to juggle all of that thing. But I absolutely think what you shouldn't do is say that it's easy, because everybody should know that every day it's difficult. And if you only had 3 hours sleep and you've got to get up and do an important presentation, or you've got to go to court, if you're a lawyer, I mean, it's difficult. Sometimes I go to receptions and I put 2 different shoes on because I'm tired, and I suddenly look down and they're not the same, you know. So everybody makes mistakes like that, but, you know, at whatever level you are, but it's not easy, and you feel guilty all the time. But that's life.
If you, it is a lovely question, and this is the question exactly that I believe made me a better mother and a better professional. I have a teenager now, and I have to share, I'm very happy he's accepted to the college and will start in September.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And for me, in our at the age of 13, it's really about feeling imperfect. When you're a teenager, everything is imperfect, because this is the age exactly when you don't like the way you look. So all of a sudden, your friends are different. They don't get you, and especially if you are different in the things you want, the things you want to achieve. And very often there is nobody. And you start to feel ashamed of being imperfect. You are aware that you're imperfect. But for me, one of the greatest lessons as a mother that I have given to my teenager is that it is perfectly okay not to be perfect, because there are no perfect people. And exactly as Her Excellency said, I bring to my work and to my job my authenticity and who I am as a personality, and the whole environment can benefit that I'm exactly the same at home and exactly the same in the office. I don't make any difference. Do I make wrong judgments during the day in the office? Yes, I do. Am I nervous? Do I show emotions? Yes, I do. Do I make mistakes all the time, every single day, at home and in the office? I am imperfect, just like everybody else, and it is okay to know this. So this is a very important discussion, again, around women and girls and boys, but at your age you have to understand that feeling shame is not good. Accepting yourself for who you are, for your strengths and weaknesses, and understanding which are these strengths, and working on these strengths in order to go ahead or to go aside and to think it over and to find it your own way, which is different from the rest of the people, is just perfectly okay.
Start with it.
Okay, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about affirmative action for women and Polish in all certain leadership positions? Do you think they help the cause, or do you think they harm more?
Once again,
Affirmative action, so a bit like quotas.
About
the quotas thing.
And affirmative
I
action.
can comment. Look, the quota things, sorry I'm taking all the time the word, but the quota things was created by some smart guys, maybe male guys working in McKinsey or somewhere, advising big corporations that if they have on their board women, they'll be more productive and more successful. There are tons of statistics. Yes, Diversity benefits everybody. Diversity nurtures value. And believe me, we live in an economy of scarce resources. Scarce resources by all terms. There is a desperate need to search for value. And corporations found an answer to this. Let's introduce the quotas because we have scarce resources of employment in many countries. We have a whole working society in America which the women, the well-educated Princeton and Harvard schoolmates that you had are not working. So let's have a quotas and let's find a way to bring them back because the more diverse the team, the more prosperous it is. The truth is, I don't believe in these artificial processes, and I think that this is. I have seen ladies put into a position just because of the quota. This is not good. But what I see is because everybody from bottom up to top down, everybody is thinking about it, and because of this awareness, some great things are going to happen where really these quotas are not going to be just the numbers. They'll be filled with great and successful leaders who deserve to be on these places. This is my judgment on this.
I mean, I agree that I don't agree with affirmative. I mean, I hate quotas. I mean, would you as a woman want to be appointed on the basis of a quota? I wouldn't. I believe I can get there on my own merit. But having said that, I do think you've got to look at structural and systemic issues. So you have to look at the question of unconscious bias, which we've done a lot of work on in the UK. In appraisal processes and recruitment processes, people recruit in their own image. And if it's a traditional organisation dominated by men, they very often recruit men who look and sound like them. So you have to act against that by breaking down unconscious bias. You have to have strong HR practices where you actually collect the data about recruitment, about bonuses, about appraisals, so you have the management information to know that if most women are getting smaller bonuses than men or who are not successful at promotion, why? In the UK, the government have just legislated, so on the 4th of April, every company who've got more than 250 employees had to report on the gender pay gap. This created a flurry of activity and everybody sent their reports in. And what does it show us? Well, shockingly, 80% of companies in the UK pay men more than women. And all right, you may think it's a crude tool, but what it does do is start the conversation about why the hell is that? That's not acceptable. And it starts HR departments, organisations saying, well, we need to look at flexible working policies, we need to collect the management information about women at every grade, we need to look at retention policies. So it's about provoking that kind of conversation. The most shocking thing for me is every morning I listen to Radio 4 on the BBC. It's a brilliant programme called Today. And there's a couple of presenters on that, a male presenter, a female presenter. And the female presenter, as a result of the BBC having to file that report, found out that she gets paid £135,000, a lot of money, for doing that role, but her male counterpart gets £600,000. And that's been the position for the preceding 10 years. She said she was incandescent with rage when she found that out, and she wouldn't have found that out if the government hadn't legally required companies to lodge those reports. So you do need structural and systemic legislation that's going to force companies to analyse the data and do something in response to it. But I don't think quotas are the way forward.
And maybe just to... just one thing I'd add to that. I think, as very adequately explained, we need more information just to be aware of the issues and what the reality is, because we don't have the data. It's really hard. Like, we can speak from experience, but it's hard to make arguments for major changes. What I've seen works outside of quotas and mandated things to do for companies is actually finding role models and leaders of the mindset of equity within companies and communities. While I worked at McKinsey, we used to have these, women initiatives, but it was only women coming together and talking about women issues, and I was just at some point tired of it, really not seeing the point. And I've heard from leaders in that and other companies that if you really want to bring sort of the diversity in, It's up to the key managers or the key people in leadership positions to have that mindset that they truly value diversity. Because otherwise, if you just bring a woman to a board, but you don't listen to what she has to say, or you are not really convinced that her arguments and her thoughts are meaningful, or that her experience is as valid as another man's, it doesn't, as Rumiana mentioned, it doesn't make a difference if she's on the board or not. And I have heard friends working specifically in IT companies abroad saying that often a manager will tell them, oh, please come to this meeting, we need some diversity, you know. Which is just, I mean, it's even more degrading than even not being there. So totally agreeing with your comment, and then just saying, what do we do about having those leaders in companies? What do you, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, do when you go in those organizations? What do you stand for, and how can you work with others to share that this is your belief? And as Ambassador Hopkins said, we're all in this together. We have to support each other so that equity and diversity is the reality, indeed, and not only de jure, but also de facto.
Can you talk about how your education helped you to become the people you are today, and how it shaped your way of thinking?
Maya? as the most recently, having left high school and university, absolutely transformational for me, I think. Of course, I've come from a family that really cares about education. A mother who was absolutely not like the mother you are, Romiana. I wish maybe she was a little more like you, because she always aspires to be perfectionist and never told me it's okay to not be perfectionist. So I'm having to learn it on my own right now, and it's very hard. But she gave me a dilemma when I was in 7th grade, because I was admitted to ACS and to the German language high school. At that time, it was the one that accepted with the highest whatever scores. And I really wanted to study French. And she was like, well, no, you cannot go to the French language high school. You either have to, you have to pick among these two. And I basically chose the lesser evil, coming to ACS. Because I didn't want to learn German. I've been studying English for years, and I was like, well, what will I do at ACS more? But this was absolutely the choice that transformed my life, because I realized early on in my life it's not only about academics. It's not only about getting A's, B's, or whatever in the subject that you're learning. It's about community. It's about developing your other skills and facets of your personality and leadership. It's about experimenting while you're at school and learning skills and mindsets that will be helpful to you for life. And this is what I think I truly learned here, and it's fascinating that I recently discovered a speech that I wrote for a public speaking competition where I was part of the debate club. I was 10 or 11th grade back then. I was just rummaging through my old textbooks, whatever, and I found it. It's a speech that helped me win the competition, but what was more important is that speech basically was the essence of what I'm doing today. That speech was all about how, through education, we can develop an active, civically engaged society in our country and work on its various challenges and problems to make progress together. And it's incredible that this school, through the various activities that it allowed me to engage in, gave me an opportunity to literally come to something that I'm so passionate about early on in my life. And that thought, even though it was not conscious back then, it later on got reaffirmed. When I went to Harvard again, half of my commitments was academics, the other half was doing all sorts of extracurricular activities and exploring what I truly care about, what I can learn through practical projects, what I can learn from my other classmates, from professors, but not only in the academic setting. So maybe that's my one thing that the biggest gift and sort of contribution we can make to them through the Teach for Bulgaria teachers is developing their skills for success in the 21st century, which are totally not what's written in the Bulgarian textbooks right now. It's about how you set goals for yourself, how you build your confidence, how you empathize with others, how you collaborate, how you sift out right information from wrong information, how you work with different media and digital resources, how you build your responsibility for yourself, for your destiny, but also for that of your community. And I believe these are things that I've definitely learned about at ACS, and I've taken on with my life later on.
Yes.
I want to answer also to continue on this one. I would have never had the career that I have in this country if I didn't go for liberal arts education. I am a graduate of the American University in Bulgaria. I didn't have the privilege which you have now. All of you have a big privilege and a big responsibility. All of you can leave and study abroad. I didn't have this privilege. Believe me, this is also a great responsibility. If you leave, why you are leaving, ask yourself. If you stay, be very aware why you are staying. But what liberal arts gave me here in my home country, actually my hometown, Blagoevgrad, because I'm born and raised there, is something that I would never ever received, even to the universities to which I was accepted. And I can tell you, I had a very high SAT. So, really very high one. But what really stayed with me and made me who I am is exactly what Jenny was saying. I had the brightest schoolmates. Every single one of them was top of the class of the mathematical schools or English language school in Bulgaria. And they didn't have a possibility to leave, just like me. The problem is that out of my class, we are 10 people here. But the ones that are here are extremely successful because they benefit two things. First of all, liberal arts give you the possibility to choose and to understand that you can make a mistake and make choices all the time, change all the time. Because you start one major, it doesn't work, you go to another one, and then you, at the end, whatever ends up as your major, this is actually what you put efforts in these 4 years. So, go for a liberal arts education, but if you want to stay here, also think about it, it's important. I wouldn't be so successful if I was in the Silicon Valley. I wouldn't be making the difference that I'm making. And I believe that every single one of these great women here with me is making a difference. Because I'm talking to kids like you who are friends of friends, and I'm giving you an example and an opportunity to stay here. Think it over. It doesn't make sense to stay here because this environment and this society needs you. And what is in front of us are very interesting times which are not immediately needing you to leave because you're part of a class which is global. You're global kids. You are not the kids that your friends have everywhere in the world, but the big difference is that you can contribute and have a meaningful and purposeful life here, contributing to the development of this country. Sorry, I'm sounding very... But
I come from a different country, so some of you will go to university in the UK. I went to Cambridge University to do a law degree. I came from a working class background. I was the only kid in my school ever to go to Cambridge. I got to Cambridge and I completely had a meltdown because everybody was bright. Everybody was from a wealthy background, mostly. People were in a private school, and I was unconfident. So that was a good lesson for me because I had to readjust to my environment, find some confidence, look inside myself a little bit and carry on. But I absolutely agree what you said, which was really about having been through that process. I then went to bar school and became a barrister, and I went to London. I prosecuted, criminal cases for 10 years before I went to do something else. But from that experience, I think what I realise now with my kids is, all right, I did the educational thing and I went to a very good university and I got good results. But the kind of qualities that I value now in my job were not the qualities I got at Cambridge, necessarily from an academic degree. They were things taught to me by my mother or my grandmother, which is all about empathy and about having a go. And it doesn't matter if you fail, but as long as you've tried your best, that's the main thing. And you've got to work out what values to you and what your principles are. And whatever job you choose, what university you go to, it's all about, is that consistent with who you are as a person? Choices that you make, are they true to your core or not? And yes, it's important, and actually I probably should be saying this with staff here, but it is important to do well at school, but it is really not the be-all and end-all, because life's so much rounder than that. And it's more important for my children, it's more important for me to see that they're developing the ability to challenge, the ability to think independently, to have empathy, to care about what's going on in their environment, to care about other people who are less fortunate than themselves. These are the qualities that I value in them. Of course, I want them to be able to read and write and be very good at school, but actually that's not the most important thing for me. So I would just say my advice would be take a rounded approach to it. When you're doing your exams, you feel it's the end of the world if you're going to fail. And of course, it is important, but it's not the end of the world. And many successful people have not done well in traditional education environment. I have a daughter who has learning difficulties, and she will never be top in academic outcomes, but she has a number of qualities that are going to make her successful. She's funny, she's persistent, she's engaging, she's curious. These are things that are really important in life, and so I'd encourage you to think about yourself in the broadest terms and not get too upset if you don't excel academically. Maybe this isn't the place to say that, but that would be my message to you.
I was very lucky to graduate English language school in Plovdiv, which is in fact, I think, the only, except one other college type, English college type of school where we had huge discipline. So I hate it, I fight it against that, but I was very lucky that I had the best community for me. And I think that was the 5 years in my life that made my character the most from all my life. So I'm very happy that I met these people. Most of them are abroad, but the ones there or here, they realize themselves quite well because of this discipline. What we lacked at that moment is exactly like Rumi said, this opportunity to go abroad, to choose whatever you like or whatever you think at that moment. The big challenge today, according to me, is do we need to go to these Cambridges or Harvards or whatever? Why? If the richest people in the world didn't graduate on time, they started doing something in the garages or wherever. So think about that. This is the most important. Think about what is your, as Emma said, what is your strongest, what are you stronger in? What is your value? Or ask somebody. Don't be afraid to ask. Make an interview, speak with people who are good in that. And just say, I would like to do this and this and this, but it's not in Cambridge because I cannot make this very high SAT or whatever. Doesn't mind. Maybe you're very good in something where you're a billionaire in 5 years. So I wish you to be a billionaire.
In your working environment, in your experience, I'm curious if you noticed a pattern in hiring new employees for companies, because I think that it is important that everyone focuses only on the qualification of the employees that would be hired and not their gender. And do you think, have you noticed sexism, whether a person has been hired only because he was man, not because he was that professionally developed? Or you think that usually the best professionals are hired in that big companies?
I mean, I'll share with you an experience when I was hired 25 years ago. I was a barrister and I had done my training in a barrister chamber, so I was a courtroom lawyer. And the barrister chambers was 80% men, as the profession was, and all of them had to vote on whether or not I would be given a job. So I later learned that the discussion had gone something like this. She wears quite see-through tops. We like that. We think she's good. We'll have her. So this was the level of the discussion. So I was voted in. Thank you to the see-through tops. They were professional shirts, but I'll take anyone's assessment. So, and that was pretty demoralising to hear that. And I think where we've come from then to now is quite a long way. I mean, in the UK at the moment, I'm just exploring the concept of blind marking for recruitment. So I've just had I interviewed 5 people yesterday for a job at the embassy. And what we're trying to do is take away the name, the sex from the application forms. They have to do a competency-based application where they answer 4 questions about different competencies to segregate them, and then look at the competencies without knowing the name, age or sex of the person who applies. And I really am attracted to this format because there's also something called a halo effect, which is where you combine an application form. If someone doesn't answer to one question very well, it reflects well on the other answers. So there's a way of interrogating questions in a blind format that works. So I think there are lots of techniques like that that guard against some of this unconscious bias, that as soon as you see a name and a sex, you are connoting things into that person that may or may not exist just by virtue of their age. Because the other very significant piece of discrimination is age discrimination, which actually in the UK is more prevalent than sexual discrimination. We discriminate on age negatively, normally on a daily basis. So you also have to think about ways in which you can guard against multiple forms of discrimination. So I think we've come a long way. Of course, those kind of comments, those kinds of discussions are still not alien, certainly not in the UK. I don't know about in Bulgaria for recruiting. Unfortunately, there are some of those factors, but they used to be very common, and they were common 25 years ago in the UK. Nowadays, you wouldn't be able to do that. So I think there has been progress. It's not good enough, it's not quick enough, but there definitely has been a step forward from my perspective.
There is even my experience is that nowadays, because of the quotas, I've been in a number of situations when we have 2 finalists, and one is male and the other is female, and I start to receive a very big pressure from my managers to hire the female just because this is going to be better for the diversity. This is not good. So you personally as a woman, I'm fighting back such situation in which I have been. This is not good. I mean, exactly, if we can take all the sexes and the ages and make a really rational judgment on the personal capability is much better for anybody, even for the chosen one. I mean, it's not good to be chosen just because you are a woman to fill in a quota.
With what perception should a woman enter the working field, and when you tripped during your working path, what made you move forward?
When you tripped, when you fell over, how did you get up and carry on?
How did you go on?
Sorry, I really feel like, maybe it's because I don't have kids yet, so maybe I'm spared a lot of the challenges that a working woman will have, although I'm really hopeful. Like, my husband has said he would love to take a sabbatical. He would love to be working from home, so, I'm really hopeful that I will, continue living that understanding that you just go in knowing who you are, knowing what you care about, knowing what you want for yourself. When I went to McKinsey, I knew I wanted 3 things. I wanted an intellectually challenging job, I wanted interesting professional colleagues, and I wanted to experience different industries so I can make up my mind in what path of life I want to, what is the sector that I want to focus on later. And I found some of these things, I didn't find others. I was excited and I learned a lot in certain areas. I was distressed and not happy in others. And at some point I made up my mind that I need something else in my life. And it was not about me being a woman, it was really about me being passionate about making a difference in specific people's lives and realizing that I'm not going to be that close to my passion if I stay in the business field or if I continue being a consultant, even if people wanted me to be there. So I never had that issue before myself of, how do I go in knowing that I'm a young woman? It's very foreign to me as a concept and continues being foreign to me, and I'm learning so much from women who've actually experienced, recently I had an opportunity to be a co-trainer in a workshop for, experienced businesswomen. Some of them have gone to business school, mostly from Western Europe, and I was just realizing how hard it is for some of them because they were so much focused on living up to external expectations. You know, there were a few German women, and I realized for the first time that for many German women, they really have to be the perfect working mom. Like, they need to have 3 kids, all these kids need to be at school, they need to have all sorts of extracurriculars, and the woman needs to be constantly progressing, you know, through the company hierarchy. And I was like, wow, you're, 45 years old, and you're feeling unhappy. You are successful, actually, because you have these 3 kids. They're healthy, you're progressing through your career, maybe not in the same way that, I don't know, someone else expects you to, but you really have it all, and you're here feeling super bad about yourself. So that's why I'm saying it's about the expectations we talked about earlier. Like, what are you expecting of yourself and why? Is it because someone else from the outside, be it your mom, your dad, your colleagues, your friends from high school or college are telling you that you should be expecting this of yourself? Or is it because you truly, deeply believe that this is my path and I'm going to follow it? And by the way, I haven't felt that level of lack of confidence because I'm a woman, but when I decided to return to Bulgaria, I felt it. Like, first my mom was telling me, oh, why are you coming back? Go do a master's degree abroad. Then she was telling me, oh, don't tell people that you used to be a consultant because this is a dirty word in our country. And by the way, working in the social sector in a foundation, well, and I realized it later that, foundation is also a dirty word in our country because there used to be a lot of misuse of various funds, especially in the early 90s and later on by organizations in this sector. So even if I haven't felt, that I need to come with a certain mindset as a woman into the work, I realized I need to come with a certain mindset because of other external factors. People were putting different labels on me. So, being a woman is another label. And I just want to close it with a short experiment that my friend did, who's based in Brussels. So she's Bulgarian born, but has lived in the States for many years. She has an American husband and she has the American citizenship. So she has a Bulgarian last name and an American last name, and she's a woman. So she did the following experiment. She sent her resume to different employers across Brussels in 3 different forms. One that basically states she's a Bulgarian nationality with her Bulgarian name, she's a woman. Another with only her American name, stating American nationality, and a third one with both nationalities on her CV. She was absolutely shocked to see that the mixed one, very few people responded. Her explanation was, they don't know what to make of me. I'm such a mixed person. I'm a woman of double nationality based in Brussels. If I'm Bulgarian in Brussels, people have certain expectations of me, and having lived in Brussels, I know what those, they're both positive and negative. If I'm American, they think of me as the American woman, which is very different from being the Bulgarian woman. So being aware that these different labels, they sort of amass together, and it's not only about gender, as Ambassador Hopkins shared.
But I think the question was around failure.
How do you move forward
After a failure?
Was it that? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry if I didn't respond to that question.
It's a great question, and I really love it.
Yes.
Usually, especially in the previous years, when I failed, that made me very energetic. So I say, somebody says, you cannot do that, I say, I do it. Definitely I will do it. After that, I started repeating the same mistakes. And what is the most important when you make a failure? Think it over. Why? What was the goal? What steps did I take? Was I neutral to my goal? How did I go? Or I was beating the others around in order to go to the finish. Now I think that if you have a failure, you have to take your leg from the pedal. Think about, and then make the next move. Because usually failures are for something very good for you. All in my life, whenever I failed for something, usually it brought me after that very good results. But you have to think it over. And when something doesn't happen 1, 2, 3 times, just leave it somewhere. Just forget it for some time.
It's not happening for a reason.
It's not happening for a reason. So just look up and go somewhere else. And good luck.
I really love the best questions, and I really like the way Diana answered. I just want to share it that I have the biggest gratitude towards all of my mistakes and all of my wrong choices, because these were the moments when I really understood how life works. This is my personal thing, how I think life works. It's like the ripples and the waves of the sea. After every expansion, the water withdraws. Believe me, when you start to sense that too many things are going wrong, when you're putting all your efforts and nothing is coming out, it is a withdrawal. Something good is coming. And with age, I even start to understand if it's a small ripple or it's a big wave. The more desperate I think, you do all the right things, and still, the results are not there. Nothing is happening. And you know what? Very often, it's not your mistakes. It's the mistakes of other people which you suffer. Also, you are held by misjudgments of other people which are causing all these mistakes. It's a very important thing to understand early in life. That this is just, the water is making place, and something great is going to come, and you're going to jump.
Нека да използваме знаете да